Alcohol and fentanyl epidemics' main casualties are sensitives and empaths. And I realized this pretty early on that at least 8 out of 10 people that I've worked with one-on-one have either been highly sensitive people, HSPs, and this is 20% of the human population and the animal population too, the animal kingdom. Around 1 in 5 humans and animals has a central nervous system where it's hypersensitive, meaning how they process sense impressions. Physical sensory stimuli, sights, smells, feels, scents, all that stuff, taste, hypersensitive to sensory, social, and emotional stimuli. So you're hypersensitive to that. Or, so the clients that I've worked with over the years, they're either HSP, meaning they have a higher degree than normal of sensory processing sensitivity. Literally how their brain and central nervous system processes these incoming sense impressions. You see, so once you start to realize that the world was created not for these highly sensitive people, not even for like slightly sensitive people. Do you know who the world was created for in civilization that we live in right now that's falling right before our eyes? It was made for the majority, and that would make sense, right? Well, you should know that this is a really good statistic right here that might blow your mind. 50% of all human beings, 50%, right, is not at all sensitive. So there's the highly sensitive person, which is sensory processing sensitivity, being hypersensitive. Then there's the empathy trait, and then people that have hyper empathy, which is actually different. And a lot of people lump empaths and highly sensitive people into the same category, and they're actually different. And you can actually have one trait or the other, and you can also have both. So whereas the sensory processing sensitivity, it's not introversion, it's not shyness, it's not intuitiveness, it's not neuroticism, it's not empathy. Although a lot of people associate the two together. It's crazy that 30% of all the people with hypersensitivity, this sensory processing sensitivity, these 1 in 5 X-men, I call them, mutants, their central nervous systems are super hyper, but that's just it. It's just down to the actual nervous systems. 30% of highly sensitive people are extroverts, right? So now the empath trait, and when somebody has a much higher degree of empathy than normal, they're said to be an empath. So these people can have different types of empathy too. People can have one type of empathy, or they can have all of them across the board, or they can have 2 or more. A lot of the clients that I've worked with are either empaths or highly sensitive people, and a lot of the time they actually have both traits. Like I said, around 8 in 10 of the people that I've worked with, hundreds and hundreds of people. And really even the people that I've corresponded with via telephone, email, and then reading their comments and stuff too, like YouTube videos and blog comments. It is apparent to me that the alcohol epidemic and the opioid epidemic, you know, these two co-emerging epidemics that are killing off hundreds of thousands of people per year, just these two epidemics. And then the most of these people that they're taking out, unfortunately, are people that are either highly sensitive people and or empaths. And a lot of the time, what I see is that the people that are messed up the worst from alcohol are the highest sensitive people. And then the most sensitive people, whether it's sensitivity to empathy or sensitivity to sensory stimuli, or even both, since the world was created for the people that aren't sensitive at all, most of the people, not everybody, but a lot, the majority I would think, are these sensitive people in one way or another that are living in a world that was created for people that aren't sensitive, probably don't have a lot of empathy too. Certainly their central nervous systems are not sensitive at all, just regular human being nervous systems on the spectrum of sensitivity. And so the age that we're living in right now is so mismatched with the human mind-body-spirit complex to be living in, right? We're in these dopamine-rich, toxin-rich environments, stress-rich environments where we have easy access to lots of stuff that makes us feel great or good in the moment, or helps us to relieve pain or stress or worries or fears in the moment, or give us some energy or a good mood to get something done that we don't want to do in the moment. We have all these things that can be great in the short term to make us feel how we want to feel and have the life that we want to live and get the things done that we need to get done. But the problem is that we are so wired for addiction. All human beings in general are wired for addiction. Many of us are much more susceptible to it, but we're all wired for addiction. Yeah, so what you have is this addictionopolis now, where a lot of the people that are not just sensitives, this is taking me forever to get to this, people that are sensitive, either central nervous system sensitive and or empathy sensitive, if they do not, this is really important, if they do not create a lifestyle that honors their having those traits, and they're trying to live like everyone else is living through conditioning, white picket fence, couple kids, 2 cars, nice $100,000 income, something like that. So if you're a sensitive or an empath, and especially if you're both, then that kind of stuff is not going to be the stuff that does it for you. And so all throughout my alcohol and other drug addiction, as long as I was working jobs and having roommates or living in parts of town, as long as my lifestyle was the way it was, which was anti-conducive for alcohol abstinence and drug abstinence, I continued to drink, or I continued to take pills, or I switched to drugs, or I switched back to alcohol. A lot of it, what drove a lot of it, was I didn't have a purpose, and I didn't like what I did for a living, and I was poor. So it was a combination of, not only did I not have money, but I didn't like what I did for a living, and I didn't feel like I had any purpose. And I also had a fixed mindset too. Like legit, my mindset was fixed, meaning I didn't think that I could improve. I didn't think that I could get smarter and better and more skillful and more confident. I thought it was fixed through life. Because when I grew up, the conditioning I got was that the mindset was fixed. And also, once you destroyed your brain cells, that was fixed too. You weren't getting those brain cells back. Since then, we've learned about neuroplasticity. Since then, I've learned about something called a growth mindset, which I didn't learn about until after I developed it.